So you've decided to learn about cybersecurity. Maybe you're thinking of a career change. Maybe you run a business and need some basic cybersecurity knowledge. Whatever the reason, congratulations and welcome to a very exciting and fast changing world. But where do you start? Well, as good a place as any would be to learn some of the vocabulary and fundamental concepts of cybersecurity. As with any specialist area, there are lots of words and phrases thrown around, which can be really confusing. So in this lesson, we'll cover a few of the things you will hear mentioned time and again by cybersecurity people. My name's Darren, and I'm here to be your guide throughout the course. Sound good? Let's dive in. So, let's start at the very beginning. Security. What comes to mind when you hear that word? I'll give you a couple of seconds to think about it. What came to your mind? It might have been an armed guard, a barbed wire fence, or maybe even a CCTV camera like the one on the screen. And of course, you wouldn't be wrong. Security is a broad term that refers to the protection of people, property, and other assets from threats, harm, or unauthorized access. That protection might include one or more of a multitude of things, from the physical, like the barbed wire fence I mentioned, to digital, something like antivirus software. Let's go a bit more niche. You're going to be speaking a lot with computer people, techies. You will hear the phrase information security a lot in these circles. This may be shortened to InfoSec if the person you're talking to is trying to sound really clever. All this phrase means is that the security focus has been narrowed down specifically to the protection of information in all its formats: paper documents, verbal communications, digital data, you name it. And they're trying to protect it from unauthorized access, disclosure, alteration, destruction, etc. That's all it means. So now we get on to cybersecurity, the course you've all signed up for. This narrows things down even further. It's a subset of information security, but within cybersecurity, we are specifically concerned with protecting digital systems and information from cyber threats. What's a cyber threat, I hear you ask? More on this a bit later. Before that, let's have a look at what we mean by protecting. How do we do that? Good question, and one that leads us to our next core concept. The CIA triad. Sounds like a movie title, doesn't it? But no, it has absolutely nothing to do with American spies. So you can get that picture completely out your mind straight away. CIA is actually an acronym. It's a really important concept within cybersecurity, so you really should listen hard. Each of the letters starts a word that is one of the three key properties of secure information. The C stands for confidentiality. We want certain information in our computer systems to be confidential, to be accessible to only those who have been authorized to access it. In the real world, this might be like locking a briefcase, so only the person with the key has access to the papers inside. Within the realms of cybersecurity, there are several tools at our disposal for helping us to maintain confidentiality, including one or two that you will definitely have encountered whilst using the internet at home or at work. Passwords is one of them, and multi-factor authentication, which you might have heard shortened to MFA. We do like to use acronyms within cybersecurity. So what does the I stand for? The I stands for integrity. Our information must be accurate and trustworthy to be classed as secure. In the old days, to achieve integrity, they used to seal important letters with wax. If this seal was broken, you knew that an unauthorized person had seen or interfered with the message. Times have moved on a little. Information is more likely to be accessed digitally than sent by a messenger on horseback. Methods that we now use to prevent and recover from unauthorized access or modifications to information include things like access privileges and backups. By the way, unauthorized access and modification is not always carried out by dodgy people from outside your organization. Very often, it's just human error or poor judgment by employees or other insiders. Finally, the A. The A stands for availability. Any guesses on what that might mean? Best if I explain this one with another real-world example. Picture the scene. You rush to an ATM as you urgently need cash to get a taxi home. The machine has run out of notes. Disaster. You're walking home in the rain. Just like cash for a taxi, if you are authorized, digital information should be accessible as and when you need it. That's availability. I've bundled another three concepts together, as sometimes it can be really difficult to get your head around the differences between them. These three concepts are threat, vulnerability, and risk. Another three words that you'll hear a lot within cybersecurity circles. Let's start with threats. We all know what a threat is in real life, but what about a cyber threat? I promise that we'll come back to this, so here we are. A cybersecurity threat is a malicious act, the goal of which is damage, theft, disruption, all that unpleasant stuff. This malicious act will be often for financial reasons, as you might have guessed, but there are other motivations that you might come across. The threats involve lots more words and phrases that you will hear in cybersecurity circles and might even have heard already. Malware, phishing, distributed denial of service attacks, that one's a mouthful, ransomware, and so on. In cybersecurity, like in real life, a vulnerability is a weakness that can be exploited. What about the last one? Risk. Well, risk in terms of cybersecurity is the potential exposure to loss or harm. So the loss might include productivity, the harm might include to the organization's reputation. Sorry about the poem on the screen. I'm not a poet, but I'm hoping that that will help you to remember the differences between these three words. Before we go any further, let's just take a step back. Why do we need cybersecurity at all? Our grandparents and great-grandparents didn't need it after all, so why do we? Well, it probably isn't news to you that we live in an increasingly digital society. But that doesn't just mean smartphones. Most of us are buying and using new and exciting devices and services at such a pace that we don't even realize the extent to which they have become indispensable in our homes, cars, workplaces, every area of our lives, in fact. Indeed, I would argue that digital is such a fundamental part of life nowadays that cybersecurity should be as integral a part of the school curriculum as maths and English. Indeed, the stakes involved in getting cybersecurity right couldn't be higher. Am I being overdramatic? That's up to you to decide. Data doesn't just involve banks of electronics in endless corridors. Data are people. Take a few moments to think about your data and your family's data. What wouldn't you like getting into the wrong hands and being misused? You might have thought about personally identifiable information, or PII, as we like to shorten it to. In other words, any data that could be used to identify you. You might have thought about credit card details, your medical records, or even information about your personal life that could be used to blackmail or discriminate against you. All scary things. Now think about businesses. They often have intellectual property to protect, maybe even the secret sauce that differentiates their business from all others and keeps the money rolling in. Also, with businesses, it probably won't just be their data that they are trying to protect. They might possess lots of private individuals' personal data as well. And because of their legal and regulatory duties under GDPR and the like, if they let that get into the wrong hands, then there might be some eye-watering fines that need paying, as well as other sanctions. Costly downtime, untold reputational damage, which in turn can affect relationships with customers, suppliers, investors, etc. All of this stuff can be incredibly damaging to businesses. Now, zoom out even more. Think about governments. Whatever your politics, it really doesn't bear thinking about the enormity of the importance of some of the data that governments are protecting and the necessity of keeping that out of the hands of rogue nations and other bad actors. And they're frequently tested in this regard by highly skilled adversaries who would like nothing more than to destabilize vital infrastructure, affect national security, and do other dastardly deeds. Knowing all of this, would any right-minded individual, business, or government leave their data unprotected? Of course, you would hope not. They all need to have effective cyber security in place. Without this, as well as the direct consequences of cybercrime, innovation would be stifled, and this could even slow down the development of the human race. I did say that the stakes couldn't be higher. So very quickly, we've come up with a list of 9 reasons why we need cybersecurity. This is far from being an exhaustive list, but I thought I'd fill the last spot on this list with a wonderful quote by a chap called David Burstein. For every lock, he said, there is someone out there trying to pick it or break it. Because it's there is reason enough for some bad actors. So we need to be ready for them. Thankfully, as a general population, we are now more aware of the risks than ever before, including, or perhaps even especially, some of the social engineering techniques that the baddies employ. The good actors are developing better security measures to keep individuals, organisations, and governments protected. But cyber criminals are not resting on their laurels. They constantly change their tactics and methods to get around these measures. So we must never get complacent in this cat and mouse game. Here's a recap of just how much you've learned already, as well as the importance of cybersecurity and the consequences of getting it wrong. You've learned some definitions of essential concepts like security, information security, and cybersecurity. We also looked at the CIA triad, which, as you remember, has absolutely nothing to do with American spies. Then we looked at those three important words: threat, vulnerability, risk, which you hear a lot within cybersecurity circles. We've come a long way.